And we are back with Chapter 3 of this beginner's guide to Fire Emblem 6 on hard mode. This chapter has us infiltrating an enemy fort, which mostly consists of soldiers with really bad speed. Even your slowest units like Volt can double them, and even your fighters will be pretty useful here, so enjoy that while it lasts. However, do not underestimate these guys. The soldiers have a lot of strength and pack quite a punch with their lances. Most of your units will not be able to take 2 hits without dying. There are 2 villages on this map. The eastern village gives you a men's staff, while the northern one gives you a playable mage. There are also 2 treasure chests located in the eastern chamber, guarded by a couple of armor knights. The bottom treasure chest contains 3000 gold, while the upper chest contains a halberd. Now, with the inclusion of treasure chests also comes the inclusion of your first playable thief, Chad. Chad is pretty much what you'd expect a thief to be. He's fast, can steal things, and open locks. However, he hits like a wet noodle, and he has the durability of wet tissue paper. His growth rates are actually pretty insane by this game's standards, but considering thieves are unable to promote in Binding Blade, they won't really do him much good in the long run. If you do decide to train Chad up, you will end up with a very elusive thief who can dodge most incoming attacks, and he can also fight somewhat well against axe users, though he'll always struggle to deal damage. However, you get another thief later on which does this just as well without needing any prior training. So my recommendation is to use Chad for his thief utility whenever you need it, and then bench him later. With that out of the way, let's get started on the chapter. One of the perhaps most annoying aspects to Chapter 3 are the awful deployment slots your units start out in. All your good units like Marcus and Deke are stuck far in the back and unable to really do much on turn 1. You should aim to take out the soldier closest to you immediately, and then make sure you can counter against the other javelin-wielding soldier and the archer. Move the rest of your army as far to the front as possible, and you should be in a good position to handle the next turn. Due to fluctuations in enemy stats, you may experience that your units will perform vastly different from attempt to attempt. Sometimes Ward and Lot will double and nearly one-round a soldier on their own, while other times you will need 3 units to gang up on a single soldier to kill them. Deke will always double, but he won't always one-round. Only Marcus with his Silva Lance will reliably kill a soldier from full health. My advice to get through this turn is to check your unit's performance against every single enemy in range, and try to go for the ones where you double. You also need to use your weaker units like Shanna, Volt, and Chad as much as possible to squeeze out every last drop of damage that you can. However, even if you do everything right, you can still expect Binding Blade's RNG to screw you over and have you miss a bunch of crucial hits. If any of your units are left wounded with even a single enemy soldier left alive, you probably have to end up resetting. And definitely be cautious with where you place Ellen and Chad, as they both tend to get one shot here. If you need to, you can always sacrifice Merlinus. He might even take 2 hits, but that really depends on the RNG. Once you are done dealing with the initial pack of enemies, the hardest part of this map is done. If Merlinus is still alive, you can send him to the eastern village to get the men's staff. I like to ferry this over to Ellen with Shanna, as Ellen's heal staff often won't top off your units when you really need it. The rest of your units can now begin entering the fort and pulling the soldiers and the armor knights one by one. As always, Marcus should take the lead here, leaving units weakened for the rest of your scrubs to finish off. However, you probably want to send 1 unit to the northern village to recruit the mage. Some people like to send Marcus to do this, but I find him much more useful inside the fort, so I decided to send Boris. He will take a sweet time getting there, but he won't take much damage from the remaining enemies in the area. I aim to put him in the northern forest tile and have a slow match of javelin tag with the remaining archer. Doing this means you won't get the mage until the end of the chapter, but honestly, he won't really be in a position to contribute anyway, as the village is far off the beaten path. This is also a rare opportunity for Boris to get a little bit of chip experience and maybe even a level. Make your way into the fort and pick off the enemies one by one. At this point, pairs of cavaliers will come charging at you, one with a javelin, another with an iron sword. I just make sure Marcus is always in front to deal with them. Roy's rapier can also be pretty handy here, as he can take about half the health of one of the cavs. As you reach the throne room, you have to divert some units to go pillage the treasury. I recommend sending your fighters for this job, along with Chad. Ward and Lot can take down the armor knights easily enough with a hammer, or even just regular axes. The armor knight guarding the treasury also has a vulnerary you can steal if you want to. As you near the throne room, now might be a good time to talk about Binding Blade's most frustrating aspect: ambush spawns. On turn 5, 10, and 15, you will get 2 cavaliers spawning from the east near the boss, and these reinforcements are very much designed to dick you over as you fight the boss himself. You also need to be super careful when you open the upper chest with Chad, as the cavalier with the javelin can hit him from across the wall and sometimes even one-shot him. To combat these ambush spawns, I recommend placing Marcus in this spot, as it prevents either cavs from reaching the boss due to the forest tile blocking them. This should leave Deke free to fight the boss without you having to worry about him dying to ambush spawns. The boss of this chapter is Slater the Armor Knight. He's marginally stronger than the last one, and has a steel lance in addition to his javelin, meaning he'll hit you a lot harder in melee combat. Deke usually can't one-round Slater unless you get really lucky, and his accuracy will also be a lot lower this time. But with a little healing, he should be able to wear down the boss in time. Before we cease, we have to remember to visit the village to recruit Lugh the Mage. His stats may not look like much, but don't be fooled. Anima magic is at its strongest in Fire Emblem 6. Enemy resistance is very low across the board, and tomes weigh next to nothing in this game. So after a few speed level ups, your mages are very likely to start doubling enemies reliably, and at that point they become fantastic damage dealers. At base, Lugh is able to deal reliable chip damage to enemies from both 1 and 2 range. But if you invest into him and start giving him a lot of kills, he can easily start to snowball and carry your run. My recommendation is to give him kills whenever you can and see how the RNG treats you. If you get several good level ups in a row with magic and speed, you should continue to invest into Lugh. But if he levels up poorly, you can keep using him for that reliable chip damage and then bench him later in favor of another mage. Now all you need to do is ensure you've looted the treasury for the 3000 gold and the halberd. The halberd is a pretty useful axe that I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with in this game. You will see what I mean by that come next chapter. With that out of the way, it's time to seize the throne, and in doing so, you have just cleared yet another chapter. Up next, we have chapter 4, and this is where most of you new players will really start to feel the rigors of hard mode for the first time. Here you will be introduced to a new terrible enemy, the hard mode Nomad. But you also get one of the best playable units in the game, so look forward to that. As always, if this guide was helpful, give it a like and a comment, and I shall see you guys very soon with another episode. Bye bye.